So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe, where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be? Or in other words, conquer their dyslexia. That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. So I want to do this series I've been thinking about for a while, and I think it'll offer really great value. Because, as you probably know, I wrote a book called Conquering Dyslexia. I want to tell people a bit about each step, because there's 12 steps where people can use to conquer their dyslexia. But I want to start talking to you through and telling you a bit about each step of it. And today is about why some dyslexics are successful and others aren't. Because you see about all the time about all the famous people that are dyslexic, and they can do all these new things, and they're really successful, and they're making loads of money, and they're making a really big impact. They're like, oh my god, Leonardo DiCaprio is dyslexic. Oh my god, Albert Einstein is dyslexic. Tom Cruise is dyslexic. That's amazing. And you see these massively successful people that are dyslexic. Like, if you have dyslexia, you can be successful. But then I remember sort of like looking at this when people said, look, you can be successful if you do these things. I remember looking at that and thinking, I don't feel successful. I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm a bit unsuccessful. I feel like I can't do these things. I feel dumb. I feel stupid. I feel the only job I can do is the one that involves least reading and writing. But guess what that is? A builder. That's what I thought. That's what I thought I was going to do, is become a builder. And then I remember being on this journey, and I sort of like found out some stats about dyslexia. So it's in the book. It's about kind of like two different stats of dyslexia about different types. So, for example, I was thinking, okay, is dyslexic a good or a bad thing? I was like, okay, let's look at the stats of dyslexia. I want to tell you, so the stats of dyslexia, 35% of all dyslexics drop out of secondary school. In America, they call it high school. 35% of dyslexics. Bear in mind, averagely 1 in 10 people are dyslexic, lesser diagnosed. So 35% of people drop out of secondary school. 40% of juvenile delinquents, kids committing crime. That's what juvenile delinquents is. 40% of them, they're dyslexic. And I remember finding out this. I was like, wow, that's a lot. That means you're 4 times more likely, if you're dyslexic, to commit a crime. I was like, wow, that's loads. And I looked at one figure that scared me, quite honestly, because it says 70% of all children involved in drug and alcohol rehabilitation, getting off the addiction of drug or alcohol, children are dyslexic. 70% of them. Let me repeat that. 70% of children involved in drug and alcohol rehabilitation are dyslexic. I don't know about you, but that's really scary. Because if you're dyslexic, that means you're at least 7 times more likely to be involved in drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs. And that's what the stats say. And that's really, really scary. I think, wow, look at all these successful dyslexics and these and this. Oh, what's the difference? I was like, okay, let's look at positive stats of dyslexia. So I started finding out. And you know what I found out? 35% of all entrepreneurs are dyslexic. Of all the people that have their own businesses, that are really going out there independently and having an idea and creating it, 35% of them are dyslexic. 3.5 times more likely to do that if you're dyslexic. But guess what? Even better than that. 40% of all self-made, important word, self-made millionaires, they are dyslexic. 40%. You know what that means? You're 4 times more likely to be a self-made millionaire if you're dyslexic. And guess what? 50% of all the people who work at NASA as space engineers, they are dyslexic. Half the people as space engineers are dyslexic. How does that work? I thought dyslexia was supposed to be a disability. The smartest type of people on the planet are space engineers. Half of them at NASA are dyslexic, and these are stats. You can look all these up. When I found these out, I thought, wow, oh my! I got so baffled about why are there differences between the two groups. I remember finding this out on this journey of like, okay, I want to learn about dyslexia, I want to discover dyslexia. It's like, okay, there's massive gaps, and I started finding out, okay, what makes one group different from the others. And I know if you're watching this, you're asking and listening to this, you're asking the same question. What makes one group, one successful group, different than the other group? And that's what I was talking about. This is a kind of figure out. I was like, okay, now let's see, could it be their schooling they go to? Well, yes, schooling does help, but then I could find people in a category, in like a certain category, like people that were being horrible, like really successful people, like the Dragons and Dragons Den, or you mean really successful people, had a horrible growing up, didn't find out dyslexics until later on in life, and yet they're extremely successful. I was like, okay, that's not the determining factor. So don't get me wrong, I was looking for the one thing that would make the difference. I was like, okay, that's not it. Okay, let's look at parenting. Well, that's not it, because yes, having good parents helps, but there's a lot of people that haven't had good parents, but yet extremely successful and happy. Okay, that's not the determining factor. So it's not school. It's okay. Let's look at culture. Look at culture, and culture plays a big factor. But guess what I found out? I found examples that contrary to the rule, which means bad environment, but yet are successful and yet are happy. It's like, wow, so that's not a determining factor. And on the other end, amazing environment, best schooling, best parents, best everything, and yet they end up being unsuccessful, really unhappy, and you mean really unhappy and feeling like dyslexia is using them. It's like, wow, why is that? And yet they had the best help and support. And you know what I found out? It's really, really incredible. But before I tell you the determining factor between the differences, I remember in my life being on this journey. Like I got at 6 years old. The reason why I got diagnosed with dyslexia, I told my mum I didn't want to live anymore as a 6-year-old kid. I wish I was never born. And that's how mum was enough motivation to get me a diagnosis of dyslexia. They found out I was one of the worst dyslexics in England. With the whole journey, and eventually I got put in a special needs school for 8 years of my life, from year 3 to year 11. I remember being at the school, having such low confidence at the start. And you mean for about a year and a half, I think 2 years, my best friend was a wall. My best game we used to play was a game called Wall Ball. Okay, so I moved from there, moved from that place to actually being confident in the same people every single day. It's described in the book how being in a certain environment can, supportive environment, help build one brick in the wall of confidence. So you get more and more and more confident. That's what I explained here. It's really important for educators to do. So I was going for this. I was feeling confident in the school, but then I left that school. And I was feeling, at the point, I was feeling excited. I was feeling motivated. I was like, I want to experience the world. I want to experience the world. And I want to feel like everyone else. Do the same things that like normal people my age that aren't dyslexic are doing. You mean chat to people, make fun of people, do all this stuff. I was like, okay, I want to do that. So I started going out, and you know what I realised? When I first started my sixth form, after 3 hours of being in that place, I was like, oh my God, I don't understand anything. I don't understand what anyone's saying. I don't understand what I'm doing. Everyone else knows everyone else's name. I don't. I'm starting feeling weird and starting feeling like a bit nervous and shy and insecure. And when these things started to happen, I started to withdraw. I started coming back. When people used to look at me, I used to get butterflies in my stomach. And all this was happening. And I just withdrew more and more and more and more and more. Before long, my mouth used to hurt on the bus ride home because I never used to smile. I remember being at home one time and my mum wasn't there. I burst out in tears sitting on a red chair downstairs, slamming the side of it saying, this can't be my life. I remember being in that situation, being in that state, making a decision to do something. And then after a couple of weeks of watching confidence videos, I came across one video that explains why you can be successful as a dyslexic. One video, there's one guy standing there, one guy saying these words, and I didn't expect it, but when I heard it, it hit me like a ton of bricks. He said this: the only way to change your life is to take responsibility for your life. And I remember feeling that, and everything changed for me in an instant. And I think because I realised ultimately, I got myself to where I am now, and for me to get to where I want to go, I have to do different things. So I took responsibility. But I realised, look, my whole life has been predicated on taking, not my whole life, but a great deal has been on taking responsibility of my life, of things that I can take control over. And doing things with that, with my confidence, with my English, and then massive things happened. But you know what I realised with dyslexia? Okay, how did I do it? Yes, I did have a lot of help and support, but yet, they didn't make me improve my English when I was at my sixth form. They didn't make me improve my confidence when I was at my sixth form. No, I had to do that. And yes, the special needs school was amazing in certain respects, but also in certain respects they weren't good. The fact is that they weren't good. It's not their fault. They're amazing people. They're doing the best they can with what they had. But what I'm talking about, when I left that school, I thought I knew the world. I didn't know a single piece of the world. I still don't. But I had basically a blind view of the world, and I thought the world would be one thing, but it wasn't. Because I was stuck in the same school with 50 kids. I remember leaving that thinking, okay, this is about the view of the world, and it wasn't. And everyone else who left had the same experience. But yeah, I made a different decision. I realised I take responsibility for my dyslexia. So the difference between the two groups, between the successful and non-successful, between being a self-made millionaire, between being a kid committing crime, the difference is 2 decisions. Now this is very, very clear in the book. Now I don't care where you came from. It doesn't, like, for example, these are circumstances, but this is not a determining factor. Like, for example, your upbringing, for example, the culture, for example, your parents. These are all factors. They're not the determining factor. The determining factor is 2 decisions. Okay, the first one is not really a decision, it's more of a indecision, but let your dyslexia use you. What do I mean when I say let your dyslexia use you? I mean simply you have the struggles that dyslexia brings upon you, and you accept it. You don't fight against it, you accept it. Okay, these are the struggles, and these struggles make me feel this way, and I'm going to feel this way, I'm going to feel bad, I'm going to feel dumb, I'm going to feel these emotions, I'm going to let this wave take over me, and it's going to take over my life, and whatever happens, happens, and I'm not in control of my dyslexia is a disability, I'm not in control of changing it or improving it, whatever happens, happens, and it's not my fault. That's the first one, let your dyslexia use you. And no matter what your upbringing is, no matter what your environment is, if you decide to let your dyslexia use you, you take whatever comes and let it be, and let the circumstances happen, and let the situations happen, and just try. You think you should do your bit, and if it doesn't work, blame your dyslexia. Guess what? You're going to end up in the unsuccessful category. Maybe not in the stats I set, but in terms of the stats of your unfulfillment, of your unhappiness, because you'll be forever bound by the limitations that you think dyslexia put on your life. But you haven't realised the truth. The truth is that limitations that you unconsciously put on your life, because ultimately dyslexia doesn't control you. So that leads us on to the second decision. Second decision is deciding to use your dyslexia. Sorry about that. Just decided to mow the lawn perfect time. So the second decision is deciding to use your dyslexia. This is where you have dyslexia, you have these struggles that dyslexia gives you, but yet you don't let the struggles take you over, but you decide, saying, okay, how do I want to approach this? How do I want my abilities? Okay, this is my dyslexia, and I am in control of this. Yes, it's hard. Yes, I have challenges, but ultimately I can control how the challenges make me feel, and what am I going to do with those challenges? Understand? And once you do that, you can open up the limits. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be, you have bad days, not bad days, you have bad moments, you'll be frustrated, you'll be annoyed, but ultimately, this is the journey you're on, and if you can have faith and realize and have a belief that everything happens for a reason, then guess what? You'll go through these challenges knowing there's a higher purpose, knowing there's a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing you'll be stronger at the end of this process instead of at the beginning where you are now. Okay? Then if you do that, you're 100% going to have a successful category. 100, very, very likely you will be a multimillionaire. Very, very likely you will be an entrepreneur. If that's what you want, that's what you want. But what's certain is, one, you'll be a role model for everyone else because you will have overcome challenges. What's certain is that you have so much self-confidence in yourself. What's certain is you'll be living a life of your standard, not of what other people place upon you. Because the funny thing is this: if you take responsibility of your dyslexia, i.e. you decide to use it, this pattern of, because it's not hard, that's a hard decision. This pattern of making a decision will escalate to other areas of your life. Into your other, your finances, your work, your career, your relationships, and it will scale like that. And guys, step 1 in the 12 steps to conquering dyslexia is simply take responsibility, decide to take responsibility. And that's all in this book, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a little gift at the end of this now. I want to let you know this Conquering Dyslexia book that took me 3 years to write, and a lot of hundreds of hours on my part and hundreds of hours of other people's parts editing this 3 long years, and as well as that, it's cost me over £1,000 in many months making this into an audiobook. And I want to give this completely away for for free for you. So if you go to conqueringdyslexia.net/book, you can get this as an audiobook. That's I'm doing this to give you this, guys, as a gift for free, because I know this. I read this for me as a 15-year-old. Because I knew if I had this as a 15-year-old, going through my struggles then, drastically changed my life. But I have to go through the years and years and years of struggling, dealing with it. So guys, get the book at conqueringdyslexia.net/book. You'll get your free book. So guys, I look forward to seeing you and hearing you next time.